the oldest stone on Earth, 4,700 years old. It is not a tomb, it is a machine, and the water that built it has been hiding in plain sight. There is a place south of Cairo where the desert does not merely exist. It waits. For thousands of years, the sands of Saqqara have held the dead of Memphis, the ancient capital of Egypt, the city founded by King Menes, the first pharaoh to unite the two lands. Here, beneath the shifting dunes, lie the remains of priests and scribes, soldiers and merchants, generations of Egyptians who lived and died in the shadow of the gods. But Saqqara holds something else, something that does not belong to the dead. It holds a mountain of stone, rising from the desert floor in 6 great steps, each one reaching higher than the last. This is the Step Pyramid of Djoser, the oldest monumental stone structure on Earth. It was built approximately 4,700 years ago, during the 3rd Dynasty, and it predates the Great Pyramid of Giza by almost a century and a half. The Step Pyramid was designed by a man named Imhotep, a priest, a physician, and astronomer, and the first engineer whose name has survived in history. He did not build a smooth, geometric pyramid like those that would follow. He built a staircase, a ladder to the sky, a place where the pharaoh could ascend to join the gods. It was a sacred mountain, carved from the earth itself. But beneath this sacred mountain, there is a mystery. In the center of the pyramid, there is a shaft. It descends 28 meters into the bedrock, the height of an 8-story building. At the bottom of this shaft lies a granite box, approximately 3 meters wide, sealed with a lid weighing 2.5 tons. For centuries, archaeologists assumed this was a burial chamber, a sarcophagus for the pharaoh himself. But no pharaoh was ever found inside. No mummy, no treasure, no trace of a royal burial. The corridors leading to the shaft are too narrow. The design does not match any known tomb from the 3rd Dynasty. The entire arrangement is wrong. The shaft is not a tomb. It is something else. In August 2024, a team of French civil engineers published a study in the peer-reviewed journal PLOS ONE. They were not archaeologists. They were engineers, and they looked at the Step Pyramid not as a monument but as a machine. Their hypothesis is simple and radical. The shaft was a hydraulic elevator. The granite box was a valve. And the water that once flowed through the desert was the fuel that powered the entire operation. They found evidence of a dam 2 kilometers west of the pyramid, designed to catch seasonal floods. They found evidence of a water treatment facility, carved into the bedrock, designed to purify the water before it reached the pyramid. And they found evidence that the shaft itself was designed to hold water, to fill, to pressurize, and to lift. But it remains a hypothesis. A carefully modeled, peer-reviewed, physically plausible hypothesis, but not yet proven. The stone has not yet given up its final secret. 2 kilometers west of the Step Pyramid lies a structure that has baffled archaeologists for decades. It is called Gisr el-Mudir, a name that means, roughly, the enclosure of the chief. It is a massive rectangular structure, approximately 2 kilometers in length, with walls approximately 15 meters thick. Its total area is approximately 2.4 million square feet. For years, researchers speculated about its purpose. Some thought it was a cattle enclosure. Others believed it was a funerary monument, a ceremonial site for the dead. A few suggested it might have been a defensive structure, a fortress to protect the sacred site of Saqqara. But none of these theories fit the evidence. The walls of Gisr el-Mudir are not built like the walls of a fortress. They are not designed to keep people out. They are designed to hold something back, something that flows. The structure dams the entire width of the Abu Sur Wadi, a dry river valley that runs through the desert. When the rains came, and they did come thousands of years ago when Egypt was not the desert we know today, water would flow down the wadi carrying sediment and debris. Gisr el-Mudir was positioned precisely to intercept that flow. Today, if you visit the site, you will notice something striking. Vegetation grows only upstream of the dam. Downstream, there is nothing but bare rock and sand. The dam is still doing its job, even after 4,000 years. It is still catching water. It is still trapping sediment. Gisr el-Mudir is not a monument. It is not a fortress. It is not a cattle enclosure. It is a check dam, an engineering structure designed to slow the flow of water, to trap sediment, and to redirect clean water to where it was needed. The researchers who made this discovery were not archaeologists. They were engineers. They looked at the site not as a historical artifact, but as a functional structure. They measured its proportions. They analyzed its location. They studied the topography of the surrounding landscape. And what they found was a structure that could only have been built by people who understood hydrology, the movement of water across the land. But Gisr el-Mudir was only the beginning. The water it collected had to go somewhere. It had to be stored. It had to be purified. And then it had to be used. The researchers followed the water. They traced its path from the dam to the pyramid. And what they found was a system, a complete system, of water management that had been hidden in plain sight for more than 4,000 years. The water did not simply vanish into the sand. It flowed through channels carved into the bedrock. It passed through a series of chambers designed to remove sediment and debris. And then, it arrived at the Step Pyramid itself, at the base of the mysterious shaft that had puzzled archaeologists for centuries. If the hypothesis is correct, the shaft was not a tomb. It was a hydraulic elevator, and the water was its fuel. From the dam at Gisr el-Mudir, the water traveled eastward, toward the Step Pyramid. But before it could be used, it had to be cleaned. The ancient builders had carved a massive trench into the bedrock surrounding the Djoser complex. This structure is known today as the Dry Moat. It is approximately 40 meters wide and extends for hundreds of meters around the pyramid, forming a giant rectangular enclosure. For decades, archaeologists assumed the Dry Moat was a symbolic structure, perhaps a representation of the primordial waters of creation, or a ceremonial boundary marking the sacred space of the pyramid. But the researchers who studied the hydraulic system saw something different. They saw a water treatment facility. In the southern section of the moat, they found a series of deep, interconnected compartments carved into the bedrock. These compartments were not random. They were designed with specific functions. The first compartment was a settling basin. Water entering the system would slow down here, allowing sand and heavy sediment to fall to the bottom. The clean water would then flow over the top, moving to the next stage. The second compartment was a retention basin. Here, the water would be held, allowing finer particles to settle out. The water level could be controlled, regulated, adjusted as needed. The third compartment was a purification system. By the time water reached this stage, it was clear and free of debris. It was ready to be used. This was not a simple ditch. This was an engineered system, carved into solid rock, designed to process large volumes of water with remarkable efficiency. The ancient builders who created it understood the principles of hydraulic engineering. They understood sedimentation. They understood flow control. They understood that water needed to be clean before it could be used for anything important. But what was the water being prepared for? What was so important that it required this level of purification? The answer, according to the hypothesis, lies beneath the pyramid itself. From the Dry Moat, the clean water flowed through a network of underground channels carved into the limestone bedrock. These channels led directly to the center of the Step Pyramid, to the 28-meter shaft that had puzzled archaeologists for generations. The water was not being stored. It was not being used for irrigation. It was being delivered to the shaft, delivered to the mysterious granite box at the bottom. The researchers had found the source of the water. They had found the purification system. Now they had to figure out what the water was actually doing inside the pyramid. And that is where the mystery deepened. The water was not simply filling a chamber. The water, if the hypothesis is correct, was providing power. The shaft was not a tomb. The granite box was not a sarcophagus. The water was not a ritual offering. The shaft was a piston. The box was a valve. The water was the fuel. And the pyramid itself was the machine. The shaft at the center of the Step Pyramid has always been an enigma, 28 meters deep, descending into the bedrock like a wound in the earth. At its bottom, a granite box, approximately 3 meters wide, sealed with a lid weighing 2.5 tons. For centuries, this was assumed to be a burial chamber. But nothing about that theory made sense. The box was not shaped like a human body. It was not decorated with hieroglyphs, contained no remains. The corridors leading to the shaft were narrow and cramped, nothing like the grand passages of royal tombs. The researchers who studied the hydraulic system proposed a different interpretation. The shaft, they argued, was a working chamber. The granite box was a plunger valve, a device designed to control the flow of water. When water filled the shaft, the pressure would increase. The box would act as a seal, preventing the water from escaping. And when the pressure was released, the water would drain, creating a cycle of filling and emptying. This cycle, they proposed, was used to lift massive stone blocks. Here is how it would have worked. Water from the hydraulic system, from Gisr el-Mudir and the Dry Moat, would be channeled into the shaft. The shaft would fill with water, rising from the bottom to the top. A wooden platform, buoyed by the water, would rise with it. And on that platform, the builders would place the limestone blocks that would become the pyramid. When the platform reached the top of the shaft, the blocks would be removed and placed into position. The water would then be released, the platform would descend, and the cycle would repeat. Computer models suggest the system could have lifted blocks weighing up to 100 tons, far more than the 300-kilogram blocks actually used in the Step Pyramid. This raises an important point. The builders were never working anywhere near the limit of their technology. They had a massive safety margin, immense power to spare. The system was not struggling to lift stones. It was capable of far more than was ever required of it. The researchers tested this hypothesis using computer models. They simulated the flow of water through the system. They calculated the pressure required to lift the blocks. They analyzed the capacity of the shaft. And the numbers worked. The hydraulic lift was not just possible. It was practical. It was efficient. The discovery also explained another mystery: the location of the shaft. It sits directly at the center of the pyramid, beneath the highest point of the structure. This is not where you would place a burial chamber. It is exactly where you would place a lifting mechanism. The tomb of Djoser, if it exists, has never been found. The shaft is empty. The granite box is empty. The pyramid is silent. But the water, if the hypothesis is correct, was the secret that has been hiding in plain sight for more than 4,000 years. The evidence is strong. The engineering is sound. The computer models support it. But the proof is not yet in the stone. The shaft has not been excavated. The channels have not been traced. The mechanism has not been found. The hypothesis remains just that, a hypothesis. And the stone, as always, keeps its counsel. In November 2022, the sands of Saqqara gave up a secret that no one expected. A team of archaeologists, working near the pyramid of King Teti, discovered the remains of a pyramid that had been buried for millennia. It was small, modest, and had been completely forgotten. But when they uncovered the inscriptions, they found a name that had never appeared in any historical record: Neith. The name was not unknown. Neith was one of the most ancient and powerful goddesses of Egypt, the warrior goddess of creation, the mother of the sun god Ra. But this was not a temple. This was a pyramid, and the pyramid belonged to a queen. Queen Neith had never been mentioned in any king list. No inscription had ever recorded her name. No document had ever acknowledged her existence. Her name was completely unknown in our historical records, said Zahi Hawass, the legendary Egyptian archaeologist who led the excavation. We have rewritten history. The discovery was more than just a find. It was a reminder that the historical record is not a closed book. It is a living document, constantly being revised by what the sand reveals. Everything we think we know about ancient Egypt is incomplete. The excavation uncovered more than just the Queen's Pyramid. It uncovered a vast burial ground, more than 300 coffins and over 100 well-preserved mummies. These burials dated to the New Kingdom period, approximately 1,000 years after the Pyramid of Teti was built. This was evidence of something deeper. The sacred site of Saqqara was not just a place of burial. It was a place of return. Later generations came back to this ancient ground, thousands of years after the first monuments were built, to bury their dead. They felt a connection to the past, a reverence for the ancestors, a desire to be part of something larger than themselves. Queen Neith had been forgotten by history, but the sand remembered, and the sand, as always, kept its promise. Saqqara still has secrets to reveal. In January 2023, just 2 months after the discovery of Queen Neith, the sand gave up another secret. This time, it was not a queen. It was a man. The excavation team had been working at the bottom of a 15-meter shaft, a narrow, dark hole descending into the bedrock, when they found a sealed limestone sarcophagus. The shaft was so deep that light barely reached the bottom. The air was thick with dust. The work was difficult, but when they opened the sarcophagus, they found something extraordinary. Inside lay the mummy of a man named Hekasheps. He was not a pharaoh. He was not a prince. He was, as far as the records show, a relatively ordinary man. But his burial was anything but ordinary. His body was almost completely covered in gold leaf. The gold was not thick. It was a thin layer, applied to the linen wrappings with remarkable precision. But the effect was breathtaking. The mummy gleamed in the dim light, a golden figure emerging from the darkness after 4,300 years. The burial dates to the 5th dynasty. It is considered one of the oldest and most complete non-royal burials ever discovered in Egypt. Hekasheps was not a king, but he was buried like one. The gold on his body suggests wealth, status, and perhaps something more. The discovery raised questions that have not yet been answered. Why was Hekasheps buried with such wealth? What did he do to deserve a golden burial? And why was his tomb hidden in a shaft beneath Saqqara, far from the grand pyramids of the pharaohs? The answers are still buried in the sand. But the discovery of Hekasheps is a reminder of something important. The history of Egypt is not just the story of kings and queens. It is the story of ordinary people, priests, officials, merchants, soldiers, who lived, died, and were buried with the same care and ceremony as the rulers they served. Their stories are waiting to be told. In April 2025, Saqqara delivered another revelation. A team of archaeologists, guided by ground-penetrating radar data, detected an anomaly beneath the sand, a structure that did not match the natural geology of the plateau. They began to dig, and what they found was a tomb that had been waiting for them for more than 4,000 years. The entrance was sealed by a massive false door made of solid pink granite. It was 4.5 meters high, approximately 15 feet, and 1.15 meters wide. Hieroglyphic texts covered its surface, carefully carved into the hard stone. The texts revealed the identity of the tomb's owner. His name was Wazirafai. He was a prince of the 5th dynasty, the son of King Userkaf, the founder of that dynasty, who ruled approximately 4,500 years ago. Wazirafai was not unknown to historians. His name appears in ancient texts, but until this discovery, no one knew where he was buried. The tomb filled a gap in the genealogy of the 5th dynasty, a missing piece of the puzzle that had been lost for millennia. The false door was not just a marker, it was a barrier. In ancient Egyptian belief, the false door was the threshold between the world of the living and the world of the dead. It was through this door that the spirit of the deceased could pass, receiving offerings and communicating with the living. The door was not meant to be opened. It was meant to be eternal. But Wazirafai's door had been opened, not by archaeologists, but by someone much older. The tomb showed signs of ancient disturbance, not the careful work of priests, but the crude work of grave robbers. They had entered the tomb, disturbed the burial, and taken what they could carry. The prince's body, if it was ever there, was gone. The discovery of Wazirafai's tomb is significant for another reason. It demonstrates the power of modern technology to find what has been hidden for millennia. Ground-penetrating radar had shown them where to dig. The sand had confirmed what the data had suggested. The technology had pointed the way. Saqqara is still giving up its secrets. The false door of pink granite is a reminder that the past is not lost. It is simply waiting for the right tools, waiting for the right questions, waiting for someone to look in the right place. Wazirafai was found. He was not forgotten, and his tomb, after all these centuries, has finally been returned to the world. But while ground-penetrating radar is a powerful tool for genuine discovery, not everyone who uses it respects the rules of science. Sometimes, the same technology that reveals the truth can be twisted to sell a fantasy. Ground-penetrating radar had just helped find a lost prince. But in the wrong hands, radar can also be used to invent a lost world. In March 2025, a story erupted across the internet that seemed to rewrite history itself. A team of Italian researchers, Corrado Malanga, Filippo Biondi, and Armando May, announced they had discovered something extraordinary beneath the pyramids of Giza, using what they called synthetic aperture radar and Doppler tomography, advanced techniques applied to satellite data. They claimed to have found a vast underground complex. The structures they described were staggering. 8 vertical shafts, descending like the pillars of a lost world. Spiral passages winding through the bedrock like the coils of a serpent. 2 enormous cubic chambers, each approximately 90 meters on each side, rivaling the Great Pyramid itself in scale. But the most astonishing claim was the age. The researchers dated the complex to approximately 38,000 years ago, a time when, according to conventional archaeology, no civilization capable of such construction existed anywhere on Earth. They named their discovery the Halls of Amenti, a term borrowed from 20th century occult literature. Amenti, in ancient Egyptian belief, was the underworld, the place where the dead journeyed after death. The name was evocative, mysterious, designed to capture the imagination, and it worked. Headlines blazed across the globe. Ancient underground city discovered beneath Giza. Lost civilization 38,000 years old. Could this rewrite human history? The researchers provided no raw data, no radar scans that could be independently verified, no convincing visual evidence of the structures they claimed to have found. Just confident assertions and press releases. But the public was hungry for mystery, and the Italian team had served it a feast. The scientific community did not embrace the discovery. Within days, experts from around the world began to speak out. They pointed to a fundamental flaw in the Italian team's claims. The technology they said they had used does not work the way they claimed. Synthetic aperture radar, or SAR, is a technique that bounces radar signals off the Earth's surface to create images of what lies beneath. The signals penetrate the ground, reflect off structures and changes in material, and return to the satellite. By analyzing the reflections, researchers can map subsurface features. But there is a limit. The limestone bedrock of the Giza Plateau is dense. It absorbs radar signals. The physical laws of electromagnetism dictate that SAR cannot penetrate 1.2 kilometers of solid limestone. Not even close. The Italian team was claiming the impossible. Lawrence Conyers, a radar expert from the University of Denver who has worked extensively in Egypt, called the claims a huge exaggeration. He noted that satellite-based radar can only identify large structures, not fine details like shafts and spiral passages. The Italian team's claims required technology that does not exist. Zahi Hawass, Egypt's former Minister of Antiquities, was direct, completely incorrect. He stated that the research had not been conducted in a scientific manner. Magdi Al-Gandour, another former minister, called the claims absolutely baseless. He pointed out that the Italian researchers had done no fieldwork at Giza. No excavation, no site visits. They had never even been there. The Italian team never published their raw data. They never allowed independent verification. Their claims were a press release, not a scientific paper. The most damning critique came from an analysis of their methods. The researchers had used aggressive algorithmic processing on their data. This process is known to turn random noise into visually coherent patterns. A classic trap, and one they had apparently fallen into. They did not find ancient structures. They found patterns in noise. They found what they wanted to find because their algorithms were designed to find it. The story of the Giza anomaly is a cautionary tale. It is a reminder of the difference between science and pseudoscience. Science shares its data. It invites replication. It accepts criticism. Pseudoscience is secretive. It makes bold claims without evidence. It relies on algorithms that cannot be verified. The halls of Amenti exist only in the imagination of those who claimed to have found them. They are not real. They are not beneath the pyramids. The sand is silent. The stone is empty. But the power of the claim is real. And that power can shape how we think about the past, even when it is wrong. The hydraulic hypothesis is elegant. It explains the features that have puzzled archaeologists for centuries. The dam, the trench, the shaft, the empty granite box. It fits the evidence. It uses known technology. It does not require aliens or lost civilizations or supernatural powers. But it remains a hypothesis. It has not been proven. The traditional theory of pyramid construction, external ramps, human labor, decades of work, does not require us to rewrite our understanding of ancient hydraulic capabilities. It is the explanation that most Egyptologists still prefer. But the traditional theory has its own problems. It does not explain the shaft. It does not explain the granite box. It does not explain why a tomb would have a hole in the center of it that is 28 meters deep. It does not explain why the corridors do not match the design of royal burials. It does not explain the water treatment facility at Gisr el-Mudir or the purification system in the Dry Moat. The hydraulic hypothesis is controversial. It challenges the conventional wisdom. It asks us to believe that the ancient Egyptians were capable of something we did not know they were capable of. It asks us to reconsider everything we thought we knew about the oldest stone structure on Earth. But it has been published in a peer-reviewed journal. It has been subjected to scrutiny by other scientists. It has been modeled, tested, and found to be physically possible. It is not fantasy. It is a scientific hypothesis, rigorously modeled, peer-reviewed, and physically plausible. But it is not yet proven. The difference matters. The researchers who proposed it do not claim to have proven their theory. They are asking for more research. They are asking for excavation of the shaft. They are asking for exploration of the underground channels. They are asking for the evidence that could confirm or refute their hypothesis. And that is how science works. Proposes, tests, it refines, it accepts or rejects based on evidence. The Step Pyramid stands. It has stood for 4,700 years. It will continue to stand, regardless of what we believe about how it was built. The stone does not care about our theories. The stone does not care about our debates. The stone simply endures, indifferent to our need for certainty. The mystery of the Step Pyramid is not solved. It is perhaps just beginning. The Step Pyramid of Djoser stands alone in the desert. It has stood for more than 4,700 years. It has survived earthquakes, floods, the rise and fall of empires, the passage of countless generations. It is the oldest monumental stone structure on Earth, and it is still standing. But it does not speak. It does not explain itself. It simply exists, a staircase of limestone blocks rising toward the sky, a monument to a pharaoh who ruled so long ago that his name is almost all that remains of him. The hydraulic hypothesis is a new way of looking at this ancient structure. It is a reminder that the past is not fixed. It is not settled. It is not fully understood. There is still so much we do not know. The dam at Gisr el-Mudir is still there, its walls still intact, still holding back water that no longer flows. The Dry Moat is still there, its chambers still carved into the bedrock, still waiting for someone to understand its purpose. The shaft is still there, deep at the center of the pyramid, the granite box still at its bottom, the water no longer rising, the elevator no longer lifting. The discoveries at Saqqara continue. Queen Neith, Hekasheps, Wazirify, each new find adds another piece to the puzzle, another layer to the story, another reminder that the ancient world was more complex, more sophisticated, more surprising than we ever imagined. But the central mystery remains. How did they build the first pyramid? Did they use ramps, as we have always believed? Or did they use water, as the new research suggests? The answer is still buried in the stone. It is waiting for us to find it. It is waiting for us to ask the right questions. It is waiting for us to dig deeper, to look closer, to think differently. The Step Pyramid does not care about our debates. It does not care about our theories. It does not care about our need for certainty. It simply stands, a monument to the unknown, a testament to the limits of our knowledge. And it will continue to stand long after we are gone, leaving its questions for others to ask. The question without answer remains. And it will remain, echoing in the stone, enduring through the ages. And somewhere beneath the desert, at the bottom of a 28-meter shaft, a granite box still sits, silent, unyielding, keeping its counsel, waiting for someone to ask the right question, waiting for the water to return,